Do you have any kind of tips or kind of behavioral hacks as to how people can start to practice both a formal practice and this kind of informal noticing mindfulness?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So, as I mentioned, I found it really hard to cultivate a regular daily practice of mindfulness meditation. And it was only until I read a book and actually an email course by a guy called BJ Fogg, who came up with a book recently called Tiny Habits, but he's been researching the concept of tiny habits for years. And he said a few really interesting things. One of them is that motivation goes up and down. So like I described, I'd be doing meditation for half an hour or an hour every day, and then I'd wake up one day with a headache or really not feel like it. And so my motivation would be low and I'll just give up. But what he says is that start really, really small. And so I tried to cultivate a habit of doing at least a minute every day. And I thought that's short enough. And even that was too much for me. I don't know what's up with my mind. So and then I managed to get it down to just one breath. So I said that every day I wake up and I'm going to do meditation, and I'm going to do a minimum of one breath, no matter how I feel. And I was able to do that. And that one breath quite often turned into a 10, 15, 20 minute or whatever meditation. And some days it was just feeling one breath consciously, and then that was it. But giving myself the space to practice mindfulness for a minimum of one breath really worked well for me. The other thing about cultivating a mindfulness meditation habit is it works well when habits are linked to a previous action. So for me, it's getting up, sitting up, waking up in the morning, sitting up in bed, and the next action would be the meditation. For other people, it might be after a shower. Some people love it when they come back from work. So as they come home, it creates a nice separation between work and home, so they can practice the meditation and start their home stuff. So finding the right slot for you, it could be, on your journey to work, if you take a train or a bus or something. It could be in your car once you arrive at a car park or something. You find that space, and to practice for whatever the minimum amount of time is good for you. You can also use guided meditations. They're very widely available, either on YouTube, or you can buy them, or they come with books and stuff. Using one of those can be really good. And the other tip I would say is, what I learned from this scientist, BJ Fogg, is that habits get wired up and you practice them if there's a pleasant experience linked to it. So, people talk about it takes 21 days to create a habit. Well, it doesn't if you're eating chocolate every day. You eat it once or twice and it's very easily a habit because it's very pleasurable. Whereas going to the gym, you could do it for a whole year and then the next day you don't go and the habit's gone. So it's not so much about the number of days, but if you can make it a pleasant experience. So, allow yourself to get really cozy in your favorite chair, sit comfortably. If you need to lean to the back of the chair, that's okay. I would say bring a sense of kindfulness to your practice. Don't force yourself too much. Do a little every day. And if you don't manage it, that's to be expected, and then start again the next day. So having this attitude of compassion towards yourself helps to cultivate that habit. So that's in terms of the formal meditations, and try ones that work for you. So you try body scan or the sitting or the other ones. I'm doing this kind of course. I'm calling it a challenge at the moment, but every day I guide a different meditation, and there's a whole group of people that are enjoying that because there's a creativity to it. They don't know what meditation will be next in the next morning, so that can help people. So that's one. And in terms of the everyday mindfulness, one great tip is that if you slow down whatever activity you're doing, mindfulness gets automatically generated. So mindfulness, we think that we're doing it. We think of it as a concentration. We haven't had time to talk about this, but we think of it as something we have to force our attention to. But like you beautifully say, it's a practice of surrendering. When you surrender, the consciousness pours in. And when you do anything a bit more slowly, like I described with the walking, you walk at half your normal speed, automatically you start feeling all those different sensations. So you can do that if you have time. Just pick one activity. It could be eating a meal and just eat it with your other hand to your normal hand that you would eat it, and eat it a little bit slower. You will start to notice things that you've never noticed before, which has loads of benefits. The other great tip is, if you can, just take a pause of 3 breaths between activities. So like after this podcast, I could stop and I could just take 3 mindful breaths where I really feel the sensations. Because if we go from activity to activity, we kind of bounce from action to action, and then we're more likely to get into this automatic pilot mode, which is kind of the opposite of mindfulness. So anything to stop and be clear, this is the end of an activity, I'm taking a few breaths or feeling my body or whatever, and now I'm doing my next action, that can help to bring kind of infuse the day with mindfulness. I'm just thinking of any others. And then, yes, so some people use this, they use random bells. So there's quite a few apps that do this, or you can have it on your computer, where there's a bell that kind of goes off at a random time or once an hour. And that could be a reminder. It could be a bell of mindfulness for you. And then you can start connecting any bells that you hear with mindfulness. If someone rings the bell, or your phone, your text message can be, a gong from a meditation class or something. So when you hear that sound, that could be a trigger to remind you to, okay, let me just bring a little bit more consciousness to my body or my breathing or my thoughts. So there's a few ideas.